is growing up to help all women with equal rights. I hope you can be the first woman president of the whole United States.
So let's learn from the wisdom of every mother and father who teaches their daughters there is no limit on how big she can dream and how much she can achieve.
Dare to compete, Mrs. Clinton.
And I will continue to stand strong with you every time, every place, and every way that I can.
All right, everybody. We got our first female president. And in this video, I want to tell you the surprising reason. You're going to be surprised at why I've been looking forward to the first woman president for about 25 years now. I think it'll be a surprise to you because I came up with it myself, and I've never heard anyone else talk about it. Later on, I'll talk about maybe I've stumbled upon why would it be so difficult for a seasoned politician to be a clear winner against some psycho. I also want to say it wasn't as close as we all thought, as all said, but it was still too close. We really dodged a bullet with Trump there.
A racist, abusive coward who could permanently damage the fabric of our society.
Well, yeah, like I said, I didn't believe the polls, and Trump said it too, except of course, that's the way he plays. He says something that's sort of true, and then twists it all around. We won't have to imagine him dealing with world leaders now with that kind of behavior. I don't think Hillary Clinton being president will actually be of benefit for women. I'm all for equal rights, but I have an issue with today's feminism that a lot of people have been talking about lately. I also have an issue with the term glass ceiling that a lot of people have been using lately. I'll talk about that coming up. Now check out this clip that I recorded off the news about a week ago. The man talking said two things that bothered me. See if you can spot those.
That we're going to stand up.
I think women are going to rise up. I think watching Trump, I think, and a lot of guys are saying this, and I'm saying this, maybe it's time for women to take over. You know, Golda Meir, Thatcher, Indira Gandhi, hasn't gone so bad. And I just think it's been a male with the worst male behavior we've ever seen. And I think whatever the polls are showing by women, it's going to be, they have had it. And I think a lot of men are kind of saying, let's give the lady a chance. I think there's something underneath here happening.
I'm glad to hear you say that because it is way beyond time for us to finally crack through that glass ceiling. And we have in Hillary Clinton.
So I hope the first one was obvious. He's suggesting that the reason our country is in bad shape is because all the presidents have been male. This is the definition of sexism, and I thought we'd overcome that. On the other hand, did you notice this guy is on the old side? I think I mentioned that recently in a video. The problem with sexism isn't with men, it's with the old generation. The generations that's now old. They grew up in a time that was different from what it is now. And did you catch the other line there? He said, bad male behavior.
Male behavior.
What exactly is that? Sounds sexist to me. It sounds like it's suggesting that men think in a certain way. And this bad way of thinking is because they are male. Well, that's horrible, man. You'll never hear anyone younger than 45 saying that, or even thinking that way. But there have been people on the news who've pointed out that Trump is not a typical example of a man. He's an example of a psychopath, sociopath, narcissistic personality. And women have this too. We could have had some woman who's in the news a lot who had this type of behavior. But would any of the newscasters dare to say female behavior? Now for the surprising reason why I would want a female president, even though I'm not female. You may have figured it out already, and it's in the hopes that once we get our first female president, that all this bullshit will be done with. And then I'll never have to hear again, wouldn't be this way if we had a woman in the White House. And all that's sexist too. I'm tired of hearing it all.
Those who think that the women's liberation movement is a joke.
I am part of the new generation of suffragettes, and I will not stand silent.
She could barely reach her car. So I think we should take a drug test.
I don't even have a question. I mean, it's sexism. That's what it is. I mean, it's sexism.
I should introduce, I brought along my better half.
Ladies and gentlemen, my better half.
I'm Generation X. I was raised in a time that was after the sexist era, where society was becoming more aware of sexism being wrong. But I'm still old enough to remember living in the 80s and 90s, where you still had a whole bunch of all this bickering stuff on TV. It was okay in the 80s, I accepted that. But in the 90s it got worse. It was uncalled for. And that's why I'm irritated. I was still irritated by the 90s. And I don't know if the younger generation even knows all this. There was a term, and I think everybody heard of this in the 90s. It was called male bashing. And it was all over the place. Even men getting into the act. You still see that today. You saw it in that clip. Well, he goes back to the 60s and 70s, though. So, and see, he's still doing it.
My best and better half, my wife, Jana.
People don't change. It's the generations that change. And for many years now, I've been happy that that seemed to end. Our society seemed to be moving on to a better place. It was great. Until Trump. This sociopath guy who's from the 50s. That was the real bad era.
I mean, if you just look at what's happening, it's just sad. Like, why are we even here? Why is this even the conversation?
It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
It's not that people hate the other gender, it's that people hate other people, because people suck.
I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding.
There was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
When they circle our beautiful destroyers and they make gestures at our people, they will be shot out of the water. Okay? Believe me.
Bragging about sexual assault.
Well, I'd like to grab Al-Qaeda by the pussy and shove some Yankee Doodle dandy right up its ass.
Grab it all while you can! Except I can't talk like that in front of my daughter.
You just did! Was there any line Trump couldn't cross?
Every critic will have to bow down to President Trump. Whoever disagreed, whoever challenged him.
They will be shot out of the water.
It is the ultimate revenge to become the most powerful man in the universe.
Barack Obama had a big part of 9/11.
Which part?
Not being around, always on vacation, never in the office.
Why do you think Barack Obama wasn't in the Oval Office on 9/11?
That I don't know.
Barack Obama is a Muslim. He's a terrorist. Do I have proof? No. My mind is made up.
Dr. Oz.
It is strict calorie restriction, healthier than we ever believed.
So it's a lot of food, actually.
I'll roast some in a handful of some.
It's another case of a low carber who can't pay attention.
I'll serve myself a cup of coffee.
Coffee.
Carbs might actually promote cancer. We don't learn about this in medical school.
I brought my levels down to a 5.3.
Just with diet?
Yeah.
Good carbs cause lung cancer. Lung cancer.
Are you kidding?
Lung cancer.
Are you kidding?
A Dr. Oz investigation.
I'd like to speak directly to Dr. Oz for a second. What the fuck are you doing?
This is the part that's perplexing to me.
Humanity's the problem, and soon people are going to find out that a woman president isn't going to make any difference. Just like we just found that out, having a black president didn't make a difference. Black people aren't doing any better, and white people aren't suffering any more than they already are. And men won't be suffering any more than they already are. Maybe I've stumbled upon why it would be so hard for a woman to be the most psychotic presidential nominee of all time. Well, in this country, at least, thinking about Hitler, why was it so difficult for a woman to win when you consider women have made up the majority of this country since at least World War II? They could have voted in a woman president anytime they wanted to. This made me realize maybe they don't want to. Maybe it's for the same reason I do want one. Once we've had a woman president, they won't be able to complain about it anymore. I'm not trying to be rude to people. This is an actual psychological phenomenon. Psychologists call it by a few names like victim mentality, where you want to stay in that mentality because you're used to using it against people. And there's a female psychologist I like called Carolyn Mace, who calls it woundology. There's a lot of talk about the glass ceiling. Hillary Clinton brings that up, and that's a metaphor for a unseen barrier which women cannot get above. A good example would be getting to the top of a company. And this term is applied to a situation where there's an agenda to keep women from getting to high levels. So I don't think being president is the glass ceiling for women, because there's no agenda here. It's simply a matter of not being able to get enough votes. Very unoften does a woman even run for president, and when they do, they just don't get a lot of support from the voters. So I don't like when people say that's a glass ceiling, because it implies that women are just victims here. Which brings me to my issues with feminism. I was just reading that only 20% of women would call themselves feminists today. That's because it's gotten out of hand. Women have it pretty good. Sure, there's still problems, but there's problems that men have too. They just don't get publicity.
The women's liberation movement, it is about equal opportunity.
We are really talking about humanism.
Well, feminists today seem to just be continuing to focus on the negatives. Will all that change now that we have a female president? We will see.
I'm going to be blamed for everything that's ever happened.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not?